talking about how traits are passed down from parent to child, and we've been working those out on some little Punnett squares. But there is another way to keep track of how traits are being passed down through a family for more than one generation. And we do that by using what's called a genetic pedigree. Now, you may have heard the word pedigree before, probably in association with dog food, because dogs have pedigrees. If you have a championship show dog, then it's got papers proving who its dad and its granddad and its great granddad was. And that lets you know that that dog's ancestors have all been really good dogs, and that's why they're going to charge you more for that dog. Well, humans have pedigrees as well, and here is one. And don't panic, yours is the one you're working on. It's not going to be anywhere near this complex, but here's a human pedigree, and this one is showing the royal family. There's a few of the German royal family on here, the British, the Russian royal family, the Spanish royal family, and all these people intermarried. You know, they all kind of intermarried to consolidate power over there, so they're all interrelated in one way or another. And this pedigree is not only showing you how these people are related to each other, but it's also showing you how a recessive genetic condition called hemophilia is being passed down through that family. Hemophilia is also called free bleeding. So whereas if you got a cut, then the little platelets in your blood would clot up that cut within a few minutes and you'd stop bleeding. Well, these people don't. Free bleeders from just a minor cut can bleed so much that it endangers their lives. And so it's a fairly serious genetic condition, and it was even worse in the past. And if you look at this pedigree, it's kind of interesting as well who is inheriting the condition. You see, it's the shaded in people, the darkened in shapes here in the pedigree that are inheriting the hemophilia more often. And if you notice, it's all squares, and squares on a pedigree are guys. And so the only people that seem to be getting this condition in the family are the guys. And that's because this is one of those sex-linked traits that we looked at a couple of days ago. So the guys are twice as likely to inherit hemophilia as the females in that family, and it shows up on their family pedigree. Let's look at a simpler version of this to show what it's actually showing us on the pedigree. Now, you could, if you wanted to show like just a family tree, you could put pictures of actual family members on a little chart to show how they're related. Like maybe a granddad and a grandma, and maybe they had a son and a daughter, and maybe their daughter is already married to another guy, and they have two children of their own. So you could show it like that if you just wanted pictures of the people on the pedigree, but when we do these in genetics, we try to simplify things by turning the people into shapes. So on a pedigree chart, the males are represented by squares, and the females are represented by circles. So this girl is represented by that circle on the pedigree, and this guy is represented by that circle, that square on the pedigree. And that greatly simplifies things. That way you don't have to draw faces or try to stick pictures on there. You can just do the shapes. But now the pedigree is actually showing us more than that. It's also showing us how they're related to each other. There's a couple of different kinds of lines on a pedigree. One of them is called a marriage line. Now, I don't like to call it that because not all people that have had children are married. And so I just like to call it a mating line, which means this guy got together with that woman and they've had babies. So that little line connects two people that have had children together. And then you can drop a line down from that to show their children. So this line coming down through here is called a sibling line. Notice that it drops down from above this girl, and it's dropping down from above this guy and above this girl over here. That's because they are brother and sister. This girl and that guy and this girl over here are all siblings. They're all brothers and sisters. But now there is another guy on the chart who's in the same generation that they are. Now the generation numbers are usually found over here on the left-hand side, and this family is showing two generations, the parents and the children. But now you can have many more generations like this big chart we looked at a minute ago. This one's actually got 7 generations of people on it. But on this one, you got 2 generations. And this guy right here in the second generation is not a brother or a sister. He married that girl. So that's a marriage line running between them. And if they have children later, we can drop down another line from between them to another child down here. Now, it is really important that that line drops down from between two parents. You can never have a children line dropping down from just a mother or just a father. Because if you remember, it takes two people to make a baby. So the line has to come down from between those two people and drop down to make their children. Now, this is actually showing us one other thing as well, because this little box right here is shaded in, and people who are shaded in are recessive for whatever condition you're showing on that pedigree chart. In other words, they inherited two recessive versions, little letters, like little r, for whatever condition it is you're mapping out on that pedigree. Let me show you what I'm talking about. There are a lot of human traits for which there are a dominant and a recessive version. Now, for this assignment, you can only use the ones I'm showing you here. And if you're going to do it on your real family members, then you'll have to use biologically related family members. A stepbrother who's neither their dad nor their mother were your mom or dad are not biologically related to you. They're in your family, but they're not biologically related. Somebody who was adopted into a family is not biologically related to you. They're in your family, but they're not biologically related. So if you're going to do this chart with your real family members, you'll have to make sure you're checking biologically related family members. Now, don't panic if you don't have biologically related family members to check, because I've already got a family that you can use for your pedigree chart. You can just use that imaginary family and do exactly the same thing that other people are, but you'll just use that family instead. So I'll show you that later. So for this trait, the first one I'm showing you here, humans have a dominant and a recessive version of the shape of their thumbs. The dominant version, if you stick your thumb up in the air and kind of flex it a little bit, the dominant version kicks back a little bit. It's crooked on the end. It's bent. And that one's called hitchhiker's thumb. That is the dominant version of the thumb gene. Some people, though, have the recessive version of the thumb gene, and even when they're flexing their thumb, it still just sticks straight up. It doesn't kick back like that. Now, when you look at somebody who has the straight thumb, then you automatically know what little letter combination they inherited from their parents. They had to have gotten two recessive genes. So if, let's say that we're using T's for thumbs, they would be little t people. And you can tell that just by looking at them, because they have the recessive look about their thumb. But now the people that have the dominant version, you can't be sure which one they are. They could be big T, and have two dominants, or they could be big T, and only have one dominant. Their thumb is still going to look like this, because that even that one T will make their thumb look the dominant way. So when you're checking people for this, make sure that you're keeping track of whether they are dominant or recessive for the trait. You can figure out the little letters later, but when you're checking them in the real world, check for dominant and recessive. Second one I'm going to show you is earlobes. Some people have ears that have a little dangly down part that hangs down below where the ear attaches to the head. In other words, it's got a lobe that hangs down here below where your ear attaches to the head. That is called a free hanging earlobe, and it's the dominant version if you've got that little dangly down part. Other people have an earlobe that simply dives straight into the head. It's got no dangly down part down below where it attaches, and that is the recessive version. So if you see somebody with that, without the dangly down part, if we were doing ears, they would be a little e. They're recessive. The dominant version could be big E, or big E, little e. You can't tell by looking at them, but you might be able to figure it out from their chart later. Tongue rolling is the next one. And if you stick your tongue out and flex it, you can roll it up into a tube if you have the dominant gene for tongue rolling. If you don't have the dominant gene for tongue rolling, then you'll know, because you won't even be able to think about how to do that. You don't have the muscle attachments to allow you to do that. So if you can roll your tongue, you'll be dominant, either big T or big T, little t. And if you can't roll your tongue, you'll be little t, recessive non-rolling person. And the last one I'll show you here is hand clasping. If you simply stick your hands out in front of you and clap them together and look down at them, you'll notice that one of your thumbs is on top. If your right thumb is on top of your other thumb and all your fingers, then you have the dominant version of that gene. If your left thumb is on top, then you have the recessive version of that gene. So if your left thumb's on top, you would be a little t, and if your right thumb's on top, you would either be a big or a big little t person. So those are the things that you need to check. If you see other stuff online like hair and eye color, you can't use those. You have to use one of these if you're going to do your family. The other ones are not reliable like this. So once you've checked that and you know who in your family has the dominant and who has the recessive version, what you want to do is pick one of those, just one. You don't have to use all four, just pick one, either ears or tongue rolling or hand clasping, just one of those. All right, so let's look at an imaginary chart. Let's say that we got a family where there is a dad and a mom, and they have 3 children, 1 boy and 2 girls. And let's say that in this family, it is this girl who is making the chart for her project. Notice how she has put the word me in that one to let the teacher know that that's her in the family. So you don't need to put the family members' names on everybody, because as long as you tell me which one you are, then I know who everybody else is because I know how to read a pedigree. So she has made her chart here, and it looks like she has a sister who had the straight thumb gene. In other words, when she looked at her thumb did not crook back like the other people in the families. So she has shaded her in on the chart. Everybody else had the crooked thumb, and she's left them unshaded because they had at least one dominant gene. Now, here's the hard part. You have to try to figure out what everyone's letter combination actually was. That's the high school level part of this assignment. So for this one here that's shaded in, we know what she has to be because she has the straight thumb genotype. So hers has to be little t. There's nothing else it could be because she has the straight thumb. So anytime you see one of these pedigree charts, you can already go ahead and fill in the ones that are shaded with little, because that's what they have to be. And the reason we shade those in is because they are the only ones that we can look at in the real world and know what they were. The other ones we got to figure out. And we can figure out some of these on the chart. Watch how I do this. We know she's little t. But up here, Dad, he does not have the straight thumb. So he had to have, if you think about it, he had to have one big T. But because this little girl here had to get one of her little t's from each parent, then he also had to have a little t. So that dad has to be big T, little t. This mom has to be the same way as well. She's not shaded in. She had the crooked thumb. So she had to have a big T. But since her daughter inherited a little t from both parents, she had to have one too. There's no way that this girl could get 2 small t's unless both of her parents gave her one. But now a brother and sister are a different case. In that case, and they'll both be the same here, her brother and sister could have inherited a big T from both of their parents. So that guy there, he could be big T. Or he could have inherited one big T from one parent and one little t from another parent. So I have to put both possibilities there. So I'm going to put big T, little t as well. Because see, the dad here had a big T and mom had a big T. So he could have gotten too big. And the dad could have given one big T and the mom a little t. Either way, he's not going to have the straight thumb. So he'll have a crooked thumb, just like this girl over here will. But you don't know what they are by looking at them. So this person on the chart, you'll probably never be able to figure out what they are unless they had kids later. And if one of their kids inherited 2 little t's, then we'd know, aha, it had to be that one, right? So those are required on your pedigree chart. You have to have those little letters there. Now, if what I just showed you confuses you, I'm going to attach one of the Amoeba Sisters videos that explains that in much more depth. And I think by watching that, you'll definitely get it. But I'm going to carry on here because this is going to take a while. So in order to make your pedigree chart, now I'll give you some advice. I think this would be easier if you just grab a sheet of paper and draw it. Draw it on a sheet of paper. When you get done, take a picture of it and attach it to the lesson. That's how I would do it if I were you. But if you don't have the ability to take a picture, I'm going to real quickly show you how to make these little shapes on a slide that I'll provide to you. And you're welcome to do it this way, but just understand it's probably going to take longer to do it this way than it would just write it down on a page. So here's another family I've created. And in this one, this dad has a straight thumb. So he has two little T's. And you may think, well, since the mom has two big T's or big T, little t, couldn't these kids have gotten two big T's? That can't actually be the case because you see, dad only had little t's to give his children. So he had to give a little t to each one of these kids in the second generation here. So they have to be big T, little t's. They can't be little t's because then they would be shaded in, and they're not because they had a crooked thumb, right? So let me show you how to build one of these. I'll build another family over here to the right. Now, in order to build these things, you're going to need shapes. And the easiest way to make a shape is to come up here to this little shape icon right here. Now, you can go up here to insert, and there's a little thing here that says shape, and you can pull it up that way too, but that's not the easy way to do it. The little box right here that says shape. Now, if yours is not showing, it may be because you need to expand the toolbar right here. There'll be a little arrow button. Do that. So you click on the shape, and then I'm going to choose circle, and I'm going to draw me another circle over here. Now, you'll notice when I let this one go, it is not dark like this one. It doesn't have a good outline. So I'm going to come up here, and where it says border weight, it looks like three little lines right here, border weight. I'm going to change that to about 4, and that'll put a border around the outside of it. And I can also, if I want to, change the border color. I may change this one to blue. So now I got a blue circle for mom, and I need to make a blue square for dad. So I'm going to come back to the shape, click the square, and put dad right there. Now, if you've already chosen the border colors, it might show up on his automatically. If it doesn't, remember to come up to border weight and set it for about 4 to make it a darker line, and then come to the color if you want to change it and click whatever color you want. Now, I need some kids down here, and let's make a girl and a boy, but I don't want to go through making those again. So what I could do is I could just click on it until it's highlighted like this, and then go to edit, copy, and then edit again and paste. And you'll see it's made me a second girl there. And I can simply drag her down here and make her one of the children. You can also use the shortcuts on the keyboard. I'll do that with dad here. I just simply click on dad to where he's highlighted, and then I press, let me click off of him again. You click on dad till he's highlighted and press Control-C to copy and Control-V to paste, and it makes you a new box there. That's a good shortcut. Control-C to copy, Control-V to paste. Now I've got the two kids down here. Now all I need to do is connect them with lines, and there is a line button right here. So if I click on that line button and then drag it between these two parents, I can connect mom and dad. Now, you'll need to make the line a little bit darker in order to make it look right. So again, you'll want to come up here to the line weight and make it about 4. And then you can kind of center that up between the parents. There's mom and dad. And then I can come up here and get a new line, drop that down from between them because that's their kids. And then get a new line from up here and drag it across, a new line, and drop it down for this girl. I'm sorry these are not like super straight, but I'm trying to hurry. Drop it down for her, and then grab a new line, drop it down for this boy, right? So there's the family. And then if I want to shade one of the parents in, I can simply click on their form. Let's say that this girl had a straight thumb. I come up here to a little thing that says fill color. It looks like a paint bucket. Click on that, and then I can choose blue, and it will fill that one in, shade it in because it's recessive. I can do the same thing here. I can click on this guy, come up to the little paint can, and fill it in with a color. Now I've got to put the letters under people. And for that, I'll need a text box. So I come up here to this little thing with a T in it for text box. And I'm going to add one under this kid here. I always like to fill in my text box with a color. So I'm going to come to the paint can again and put a yellow fill in it. That way I can see it in case it moves around. And then I can put the little letters for that person in there. And since it is shaded in, it has to be little t, little t. Now, if the font is too small, you can highlight it, double click on it, and then do bold. And you can, let's see, change the font size to about 24 or something like that, and then it'll show up fine. Right? Now, once again, if you needed another text box, let's say I was doing this guy down here, and I know he also has little t's, you can do the same little trick with the copy, paste, make you another version of that, and just drag it down here where it goes. Right? Now, let me show you a couple of special cases because the standard stuff doesn't always work for families because there's a lot of differences. So let me show you a couple of special cases. Let's say that you had a mom and a dad here, and they had 3 kids. They've got a daughter, a son, and another daughter. But let's say that this boy here, you've already put him kind of in the middle of the family, but you just remembered, oh yeah, wait, he's got a wife. So where do I put her? Well, if he's not on the edge over here where you can fit him easily, you could stretch this sister out a little further and then add his wife in here beside of him by putting in a marriage line. And then you can drop the kids down from between them to the next generation if you need to. The other thing I wanted to show you is what if somebody has a second marriage? So this lady here married that guy and they had 3 kids, but she also has here a second marriage, double lines, to another guy over here, and they also have a kid. So that's how you would put on stepbrothers and stepsisters. This guy here is the half brother of that girl and these 2 other, right? So I hope that makes sense. If you're going to use the traits for your real family, you will need to check these things on them and see what they are and keep track of which ones are dominant and recessive. If you're not going to use that, you can use the pre-made family that'll be attached to the lesson. You can just do it with that. It's got the important details about that family on there. You can just read that and use that as your family. So I hope that cleared everything up. If there's anything else you need to know, just let me know. When you get done with the assignment, you will have a pedigree chart sort of like this that shows you and your family connected correctly, and you will have the correct shading on people, and you'll have the correct letters under each person. I'll help you with anything you need. Just shoot me an email, and I'll be glad to tell you anything you need to know.